Good morning. Welcome to Princess Friday. We're going to finish up our discussion and our section on ecosystems today, and we're going to be talking about relationships between organisms within an ecosystem. So the first relationship is predation. So predation is the relationship in which one of the animals hunts, kills, and eats another. And here are some examples. A tiger is definitely a predator, and even little birds, these cute little sparrow, can be a predator as long as it hunts and kills and eats another animal of some kind. Here's a snake that has hunted and started killing a big lizard. And then we have even fish. A lot of fish would be considered predators. So the predator-prey relationship in ecosystems helps maintain balance. For example, the wolves will keep the deer population in check, or they'll keep the deer population balanced. So if there are a lot of deer, what happens to the wolf population? And what happens to the wolves when they eat too many deer? They get fat. Okay, but we're going to talk about changes in the ecosystem based on predator-prey relationships as well. Okay, there are other relationships between organisms, and we call those symbiosis or symbiotic relationships. And there are three types. So the first one is mutualism. Mutualism is when both of the species, both of the organisms benefit from the relationship. They get something good from it. Parasitism is when one of the organisms in the relationship benefits and the other one is harmed. So the one organism benefits at the expense of another organism. And then the third type of symbiosis is called commensalism. And in commensalism, one of the organisms will benefit and the other one isn't harmed or benefited. They just don't even almost realize that the other organism is there. Okay. So let's look at some examples of each of those. Mutualism, for example, this rhinoceros and the oxpecker have a mutualistic relationship. The oxpecker will actually eat ticks and bugs and stuff off of the rhino. And so the rhino benefits because he gets cleaned of all these pests, and the oxpecker benefits because it gets to eat a lot of bugs and stuff. And here's a really great picture of an oxpecker with a whole mouthful of ticks. Another example that you probably are familiar with is the mutualistic relationship between sea anemone and the clownfish. The clownfish are not stung by the sea anemone. It's hard to say. Butterfly fish like to eat the sea anemone because they also are not stung, but they won't come to the sea anemone and eat when the clownfish are there. So the clownfish kind of scare them off. So that's definitely a mutualistic relationship, mutualism. Parasitism, I remember, is when one of the organisms is really harmed, one benefits and the other one is harmed. And we call the harmful organism, or the dangerous organism, is called the parasite. And then the organism that is harmed or hurt is called the host. You are probably very familiar with mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are definitely considered parasites. They spread malaria, which is a terrible disease, and millions of people die every year. Millions of people are infected with malaria, but many of them die. Ticks are also an example of a parasite, and this is a picture of a tick after it's fed on the blood of its host victim. Okay. Another example would be this lamprey eel. If you see the mouth parts of the lamprey, it has these really awful, like little sucker things, almost like with teeth, and it will attach to the side of fish. And then you see it's really harmful to the fish, of course, after they've been, after the eels have attached to them and fed. Okay, some other examples of some parasites, a vampire finch. Isn't that lovely? It's a cute little bird, but he's definitely getting blood from cattle of some kind. Fleas are an example of parasites, whether they're on your dog, or you, or another animal. The botfly is another example. It lays its eggs and the larvae hatch and live inside the skin of humans. All right. And then the last type of symbiotic relationship is called commensalism. And the example here is the remora fish. So the remora fish are these fish that have these harmless suckers that allow them to attach to the side of a shark. So they just ride along with the shark, and whenever the shark feeds, the remora gets to eat all the little bits and pieces that are left over. So the shark is not helped at all. It's not harmed at all. It just doesn't really even care. But the remora is able to feed and survive because of that relationship. Okay, here's a better picture. You can see the remora just hanging around the shark. Pretty cool. Right? Okay, so in class, we're going to do a few things. One of the things that we're planning on doing is watching some National Geographic videos on symbiotic relationships. And we have a worksheet full of really fun things for you to look at and classify as the type of symbiotic relationship. We're going to do an owl pellet dissection so we can look at predation and what owls eat. We're going to do an activity called Mises and Wolves to help you see the relationship of predation and population numbers in different ecosystems. And we're going to do an activity called the Oh Dear activity, where we'll look at that predation and balance in the ecosystems as well. And then you will need to start looking at your chosen ecosystem and find examples of predation and the 3 different symbiotic relationships in your ecosystem. Okay? All right. Thank you. Have a great day.